Hi, my name is Senator Colbeck, and I'd like to welcome you to Lansing from a New Perspective. And this week, what I'd like to do is talk about the Michigan State Police. And with me to talk about the Michigan State Police is the Director of the State Police, Colonel Kriste Etue. Colonel Etue, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And I guess we can start off a little bit by talking about how you got involved in the State Police and kind of give us a little background on your career and how did that lead to you being established as a director for the Michigan State Police?
Well, thank you for inviting me here today. I have 24 years with the Department of State Police, and actually I came into the department, my father was in the department. So I think my whole life I wanted to be a trooper, and when I kind of rose through the ranks. I started in Brighton and then moved to Coldwater and then moved to Lansing, and through the course I was the captain of emergency management and homeland security, and I just always had an opportunity to have some really great details and assignments within state police. And then when Governor Snyder was elected, he did select me as the director. I'm the 18th director of the state police and the first female director.
Well, I have a lot of good friends in the state police, a lot of them retired, that are very happy to have you at the helm there, and they speak very highly of you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be the director, actually.
Yeah, well, I enjoy working with you in my capacity as chairman of Michigan State Police and Military Affairs Subcommittee on Appropriations, and it's been a joy working with you and Deputy Director Seibel. So,
thank you.
I guess without further ado, that's maybe a good segue into talking about the appropriations process. And we've just come out of passing in the Senate the appropriations bill, Senate Bill 184 for Michigan State Police appropriations, and it's a little bit different bill structure. I kind of upset the apple cart a little bit with this approach, considering what we've done in the past, and it was really working in line with suggestion from the governor in regards to working to line item roll up on budgets. Usually the budgets are broken down into quite a bit of detail, where you have 80, 100 line items specifying how much money can be spent on specific programs. Our bill rolls that up to approximately 4 line items, and from a dollar perspective, and instead of providing detail on the budget side of the fence, we're actually providing detail on the service expectations around those dollar numbers. So it's a little bit different way of doing business, and from a legislature perspective, the intent is to provide more flexibility for the department to go off and allocate dollars where they really benefit our citizens and actually provide the services that they're expecting at the most most efficient, most effective manner. And it also discourages things like spending to budget line items, because you know, if you don't spend everything in that respective budget line item, well, next year you might not get that budget line item. So now we're sitting there saying, hey, let's move this, let's provide you with the flexibility to do the job that you're looking for in context of what in private industry, which is where I'm coming from, would be referred to as a service level agreement. It's essentially a contract saying we'll provide this much money, but we're expecting this much in return. I guess maybe could you go over what this means operationally from the department perspective, this kind of new perspective, if you will?
Yeah, it is a huge shift and a change, but I do think it's going to provide us a better ability to have flexibility within that line. As you mentioned, our lines in the state police budget, this is my 5th budget cycle. So for 4 years, pretty much we've been operating with several lines for every service that we deliver in the state police. And at the end of the year, quite often we'd have to make transfers if one line did run out of money, and we'd have to go back to the legislature, and that was very time consuming. And this budget cycle has been unlike every other budget cycle for the state police, I will tell you. I know the governor likes to work in what he calls dog years. Yeah. Well, I think you like to work in dog years as well, because as we worked with you, Senator Colbeck, and your staff, the metrics and the measures that you're going to require the department to provide back, it does fall in line with your expectation and the citizens' expectation of this is what we expect the service to be from the Department of State Police. And we are a full police service. I mean, we run a forensic science, but we have several troopers in the field. We run also highway safety planning. We have investigators, computer crimes unit. But what you've allowed us to do is roll up those into 4 categories, and we will have the flexibility knowing that we have certain expenditures that are just a given. But other areas, there may be something that comes to the state police that we didn't see coming, some kind of a crime trend or something that we have to deal with. And now we can work within that line, and we don't have to always be going back and forth with the legislature. So I think as a department, we're looking forward to seeing this work, and I think it'll save a lot of time. It's much more efficient this way, I think.
I appreciate it. Well, I tell you, I don't know if this would actually work in all the different departments right now, the way the operations are within those departments. State police is a little bit of I guess, a good place to start for this type of approach, because you've always been metrics oriented in the past. So you're keeping track of crime stats on a regular basis, your turnaround on lab tests and things along those nature. And it's actually a blessing that frankly we got aligned in that regard to actually help put this into motion here.
I agree.
Yeah, I just kind of take a quick step back. One of the things we did when we kicked off this whole process is that we started off with just listing what are all the core services of Michigan State Police. So maybe you touched on a couple of them, but maybe this would be a good time to actually list some of the, for the people that are watching right now, what are all the core services? Most people, all they're thinking of is, you know, flashing red light behind them on the highway, and it's much more than to the state police operations than that.
It is, and you know, I remember that exercise when we came to your office and we started listing all the services, and that is true. I think if the common trend is, if you ask a person, what do you think of when you say Michigan State Police? And probably 90% of the citizens would say that trooper and that blue goose, as we call it, with the bubble on top. But we are far deeper than that. And you know, we run a full-blown investigative part. We have cold case teams, major case teams, tobacco tax enforcement, bridge card enforcement, mortgage fraud. And when you look at just our fire investigators, our crime lab is so diverse. I mean, we have biology and DNA and firearms. And you know, you look at what the trooper is trained to do besides just the investigative part. We have school liaison officers, community service troopers. I mean, the list does go on, and we are our Criminal Justice Information Center alone, many people don't realize that we house all the criminal records for the state of Michigan. So any criminal history anyone may have, we have a record of it. Firearms, a concealed weapons permit we hold. We look at all the crash data. We maintain all the crash data in the whole state of Michigan. So we are far greater. I think our good marketing is that trooper out there, but the department has so many other services that we do deliver. And
a lot of specialty services that the local law enforcement organizations can't afford to provide, at least in a capacity where they're constantly trained and kept up to date with the latest technology. And so anything that's required in those specialty areas, the state police excels at.
Like our bomb squad and our training academy has one of the only precision driving tracks, and our hazardous material. I didn't even mention our emergency management or homeland security. So you're correct.
Yeah. So there's a lot that the department is bringing to bear. Let's talk a little bit about one of the major changes that we've had in this budget cycle, and one of the major cost reduction items that actually I think is a shining example of how you can actually reduce costs while actually increasing the effectiveness and efficiency around service delivery, and that's the field restructuring.
That was the field restructuring or field realignment consolidation. There's many words we're calling it currently in the department, but we were tasked, we're about 3% of the state's general fund, and we're a budget of about $261 million of general fund. And when we had our budget targets of $20 million reduction, obviously in years past, $1 million equates to about a closing of, we were going to close our Marquette lab a couple years ago and lay off 100 troopers. We actually laid off 100 troopers, and our target was $1 million. So if you put that in terms of what would have $20 million done to the department, obviously currently we only have 953 troopers. We're the lowest number of troopers since the 1960s. But in Michigan, we're down nearly 3,000 police officers since September the 11th. So that just kind of paints, besides Detroit's police department and the Michigan State Police, we make up the largest number of reductions. And so when we looked at the $20 million target, almost $21 million target, the goal was to not lay off troopers, and knowing that we needed the troopers out there, so the decision was made to look at our infrastructure. Our infrastructure, as we know, they're called posts. Many of them, they're very entrenched in the communities. However, they're very old. These posts were built in the 1930s. They had not been, the upkeep was not really maintained. Many of them had several structural problems, plumbing, heating, roofs, everything. So we took a real close look at where we could deploy our troopers in a more efficient way, knowing that bricks and mortars do not save lives day in and day out. And yet we didn't want to have a trooper leave a community because it's important that we are in that community helping provide public services. So we closed 21 work sites. And with that, though, not a single trooper is being laid off. So in these times when we feel that we'd rather infrastructure, bricks and mortar are not more important than the personnel in the state police. We've been investing in a mobile office concept in our patrol cars with our Homeland Security funds. So I do believe that the communities, the net for a community, you are not going to see less troopers. In fact, you may see a net gain of troopers because they will be working from their patrol unit. We're equipping them to be a mobile office. We're reaching out to communities and to our other state agency partners to have what we refer to as detachments. A place a trooper could stop and maybe make police report or talk to a citizen, possibly download some information to a computer. No, we're pretty excited that we're able to meet that target and not impact our services.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, it's a prime example. As trooper numbers, as those have been declining in recent years here, the idea is to be able to have the flexibility to get out of that bricks and mortar concept and actually put them where the actual crimes are. I think that's a powerful concept. It's something that's being done in the Department of Defense in regards to flexible approach to threats. And the idea of getting a more mobile response team, I think is a win for the citizens of Michigan here. So I really appreciate that perspective and approach on this.
Yeah, and I think the troopers are embracing this too because we know that there is a need for our services out there. And we do the full service. We're not just highway patrol. Yeah. And with that, troopers will be still staying in those communities. So even though a community may have their post technically closed, that does not mean they're losing their troopers.